Does Georgia Tech have a shot? Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis based on your contribution. We appreciate you being here. Let's size it up. Going into week 0, Florida State, Georgia Tech, an ACC conference game. How about that? Not played in Atlanta or Tallahassee, but of course, Dublin, Ireland. We had a double-digit favorite go down just a few years ago in this same situation. Week 0 in Ireland, Nebraska falling to Northwestern. That Wildcats team could not win another game the rest of the year. They won that one game in August and then lost 11 straight, but still they were better than Nebraska as a double-digit dog on that day. And we look at the same type situation in 2023 where 18 times a double-digit dog in power conference play pulled off the upset. Ironically, Georgia Tech was involved in 3 of those games. Yes, once they were the victim to Northern Illinois as a 3-touchdown favorite, but Georgia Tech pulled off the upsets against Miami at Hard Rock Stadium in the famous non-kneel-down game. They were a 20-point dog against the Canes, and then they also pulled off an upset against North Carolina as an 11-point dog, winning that game by 4. Consider also that the Florida State team that went 13-0 in the regular season had close calls last year as a enormous favorite. If you caught the Boston College game, you know how close that was. FSU was a 25-point favorite, 21-point favorite against Pitt, one-score game in the fourth quarter. Against Duke, they trailed late in the third quarter. They were a 14-point favorite at home, and then against Miami, they eked out a one-touchdown win as a 14-point favorite at home. Just giving you a little recent history on how this is possible. Not probable, but possible. We'll have our pick later in the week. Let's look at some of the key situations in this game. DJ Uiagalelei has a wealth of experience as the starting quarterback at Clemson, Oregon State, and now Florida State. He's got about as much experience as anybody playing college football at that position. However, this is his first game at Florida State under a new offense, even though that offense should be much improved versus what he dealt with at both Clemson and Oregon State with Mike Norvell, one of the best offensive minds in the game, running the show. However, he's also working with not just new wide receivers for him, but we're talking about inexperienced wide receivers in particular who have produced little in college football. They do bring in a couple key transfers, Malik Benson from Alabama and Jalen Brown from LSU, but quarterback, wide receiver, symmetry, chemistry in this first game could be an issue, and there could be some misfires from DJ because he is prone to misfire. 57% completion percentage last year, and that's as a fourth-year starter. Also consider this could be the way in which Florida State rams it down Georgia Tech's throat and wins and fends off an upset bid here. This is probably a top 5 offensive line in the country at Florida State. Certainly when you look at experience, returning starters and returning starts, I don't know that they're quite that good. However, the Georgia Tech defensive line last year was atrocious, giving up 221 rushing yards per game, 5.4 per carry. However, they bring in transfer portal additions from Miami and Penn State. Those guys didn't play much, but they bring in an impact player from USC, Romello Height, 4 sacks for the Trojans last year. Really good player off the edge, although that's not necessarily going to help as much in the interior against this Florida State rushing attack, minus Trey Benson. The Georgia Tech offensive line, many people don't know this. They return one of the top units in college football, 4 or 5 starters, a wealth of experience. They had the number 1 rushing attack in the ACC last year, and this is not a Paul Johnson offense. In a traditional style with, of course, Jamal Haynes at running back, who ran for almost 1,100 yards, 6.1 yards per carry, and 7 touchdowns. They led the ACC, 5.4 yards per carry, 204 rushing yards per game, only gave up 15 sacks of Haynes King. Of course, he can move around, so he avoids some sacks as well. He ran for over 700 yards. A quarterback rushing for 6.1 yards per carry is impressive because, of course, the sack yardage goes against that. He had 10 rushing touchdowns. If Haynes King, one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in college football, can keep it out of harm's way, 16 interceptions last year, but he threw 27 touchdown passes, so he accounted for 37 touchdowns, 61% completion percentage. He's got his 2 top wide receivers back, unlike the Florida State wide receiver situation. Georgia Tech with incoming transfers, plus the 2 top guys back with a total of 94 catches. So no Jared Verse for Florida State this year. No Braden Fisk, who are off to the Los Angeles Rams. Sion Lolohea, the Oregon State transfer, comes in as one of the top performers out of the Pac-12. So Florida State, we are not in any way saying that they are not going to be stout up front defensively, because they are. It's a deep group. Mike Norvell actually thinks it's the deepest group that he's had on the D-line since he's been there. But again, the 2 standouts are gone to the NFL. If this comes down to a kick, both guys are reliable. Aiden Burr, 17 of 19 for Tech. Ryan Fitzgerald had his hiccups a couple years ago, but last year rock solid, 19 of 21. Florida State show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Eastern Time over on the Florida State channel. Please check it out. Florida State live every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time. We will have our pick later in the week. We also have a discussion with Georgitis of the Renegade Report right here on the main show Wednesday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. So check that out. And if you'd like more in regards to the odds, the lean, get the edge with us this season right here at the Voice of College Football. College football is even more exciting with some action on the line. And the games are even better when you're cashing in. And the Voice of College Football is the place to be to get the greatest value. Let's start with my picks. 75% against the money line, 58% against the spread. I've got a 40-year track record. In fact, in 2023, at $100 played per game, you would have netted over $9,300. And guess what? I'm just the warm-up act. Steve Merrill, our ace in the hole, show stopper from Wager Talk. 6 years with the Voice of College Football, over 30 years in the industry. Steve gives us analysis on all the big games, but you can't miss Steve's weekly under-the-radar pick, which went 21-5 against the spread the last 2 seasons. I repeat, 21-5 against the spread. You also get picks from some of our top analysts here at the Voice of College Football, including Steve Dace and Matt Zemek. Become a YouTube channel member or Patreon member for just $99 per month. Go to the main channel on YouTube, click join, and select the betting tier. Do the same thing on Patreon. Make 2024 a winner now.